Hi, well, greetings to you all, and welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you are a returning viewer. If this is the first video you're watching, well, hey, good luck. That's all I can say to you, especially with any content or anything coming out of my mouth. Otherwise, no, greetings, and I hope you enjoy this video. Feel free to like it, comment below, and feel free to subscribe to the channel and watch any more of my videos if you like. As mentioned before, they can be a bit random in their topics because I'm trying to, create something for everyone. And I also want to make it so you don't have to watch all my videos from the very beginning in order to understand them. They are in no particular order, simply that which I made them. Okay, so without further ado, my name, of course, is Hirsch Saha, the one and only, reporting from Auckland, New Zealand, as usual, just in my home here. And this talk video, yes, eating right made simple, yes. Now, of course, there are many places to go to find out how to eat well, whether it's books or magazine articles or anything online. And even online, you've just got a plethora. That's the right word. Just so much of material there, whether it's written or whether it's in video form or whatever. So, I'm trying to think, how do I make this video stand out? What I want to do in this video is that I just want to make it simple. When it comes to eating right, just as the title says, eating right made simple. And the inspiration from this video actually came from when I was talking to my father, who is, starting to get a bit on in his years, about how he can eat better or eat right. And he doesn't exactly have the longest attention span, unfortunately. So I just tried to keep it short and simple. That's what I want to do here, and hopefully you'll pick up a few things from this video. So eating right made simple. I guess one way we can look at it is that if you have 3 meals a day, 3 meals a day, and of course 7 days a week, that's 21 meals, right? So one meal a week is basically say 1 out of 21, basically 5%. I know that's 1 out of 20, but basically 5% of your diet. Each meal per week is pretty much 5% of your diet. And without going into, all the nitty gritty, all the details, I'm really just want to keep it simple here. So when it comes to eating right, made simple, just remember it's about eating the right amount of the right foods. Your 3 meals a day and perhaps two snacks, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and perhaps a morning and afternoon, snack, or if you like, a morning and afternoon tea. That's pretty much what it is. Eating the right amount of the right foods, not too much, obviously, but not too little that you starve yourself as well. Believe it or not, but when you're starving or if you're too thin, that is actually worse than being overweight because when you're starving, you're lacking food, whereas when you're overweight, that might not be very healthy, sure, but at least you do not lack food. You actually have more than you need, and your body, of course, stores it as fat. So, so again, basically, when it comes to eating well, the right amount of the right foods, yes, and let's keep it simple. Think of the four food groups. You might remember this from school or just from probably a very long time ago. Your four food groups. Basically, you've got meat, you've got fruits and vegetables, that which is truly natural, I guess. Then there's breads and cereals, and then there's dairy. So if you think about it, obviously you want to minimize junk food, anything that is not processed. Usually, the more processed it is, the more you should avoid it. Anything which is more natural, organic, made by God, if you like, that's what you should go for. Really put simply, go for the more organic and go less for the processed food, and think of those, again, those four food groups in terms of being healthy. I mean, I personally think that a little bit of junk food is fine. Say if your diet 100% or your 21 meals a week, therefore each meal is about 5% of your diet. I would think that, junk food or unhealthy food should be no more than 10% of your diet. No more than 10% of your diet. 10% of each meal a week is 5%. That really means you can have about 2 meals a week of processed or junk food. And I know it's ideally, sorry, if I can actually say it correctly, ideally it's great to have no junk food at all. Sure, but what I'm trying to get at here is a bit of a balance. Not too much junk food, of course not too little either, but just a bit because you also want to enjoy life, right? You also want to enjoy life. After all, your time on earth is limited, regardless of how healthy you are, regardless of how long you live. Your time on earth is very limited. And even if you are very healthy, I don't mean to be negative, but anything could happen at any time, right? Even if you're young, even if you're healthy, even if you're fit. So you really want to enjoy life. And it's one of those things that if you only eat out junk food or eat inorganic food twice a week, because you're having it less often, you will actually enjoy it more than if you had it very often or every day, for example. So I think 2 junk food meals a week or unhealthy food twice a week or for 2 meals a week is fine because that's only about 10% of your diet. Otherwise, there should be no more than that, I would say. Minimize, sugars, salts, oils, and fats, just as a general, precaution. When it comes to sugar, try to go for raw sugar over, your plain white sugar, a bit like going for wholemeal bread over white bread, yes. Otherwise, stick to those 4 food groups, meat, fruits and vegetables, breads and cereals, dairy. And I would actually say go a bit further and say you could even cut out meat altogether. Yes, you can cut out meat altogether because the reality is that, you can do without meat. I know a lot of you are saying, oh, shut up. I'm not giving up meat. That's your choice. But if you're okay with it, or if you're not so fond of meat, or if you can't even afford meat, or you'd rather do without it, or meat tends to take extra time because you need to cook it and all that, and you buy it separately as well. Well, then you can actually do without meat, really. Human beings fundamentally, or even going back to primitive times, before we had any civilization, any technology, we basically survived on fruits and nuts and drinking water. That's really not even vegetables we had back then, especially before we established farming practices. That's all human beings, in the wild when we were cavemen. That's all we basically ate. Of course, again, before we learned how to farm for vegetables, and of course, and before we learned how to hunt for meat. That's really all we had: fruits, nuts, and water. And that might sound like a very boring, horrible diet, but you can survive on that and you can be pretty healthy on that. And again, if you forego meat, you're probably wondering, what about protein? Where do you get protein from? You can still get protein from eggs and nuts, as mentioned. Protein can still come from eggs and nuts. And with eggs, you have to be a bit careful. It's a real double-edged sword because eggs have a lot of protein, yes, but they also have a lot of cholesterol. So you want to be a bit careful with eggs. Again, not too many, not too few either. But otherwise, I would really think you could do without meat altogether. And again, before I forget, doing without meat is actually very, very good for the environment, for minimizing your carbon footprint. You might not care about that, fine. But for those of us who do care, it's a big step towards becoming carbon neutral or even carbon negative. So you can really go without meat as long as you have some eggs and nuts. But otherwise, the other 3 food groups, remember those. Fruits and vegetables, breads and cereals, and dairy. So think of those 3 food groups. Perhaps have some eggs and nuts to make up for not having any meat. Minimize sugars, salts, oils, and fats. Doesn't mean you bring it down to zero because your body needs some sugars, salts, oils, and fats. So minimize it. Have only about 2 junk food meals a week. That's only about 10% of your total diet. And don't eat too much, don't eat too little either. The right amount of the right foods. Remember, things that are well cooked are good. Even things that are homemade tend to be better. And go for the more organic food as opposed to the more processed food. Go for the more organic, natural food. Unfortunately, sometimes it costs more, but that's what you should go for. That's a bit of a summary of what I've been saying today. What else could I say is, of course, drink plenty of water. Yes, and some pure water. Drink plenty of water. I'm not sure if it really comes under diet, but obviously try not to smoke or minimize the smoking by as much as possible if you do smoke. When it comes to alcohol, don't drink too much. Try not to binge drink. When it does come to alcohol, what I've heard so many times in the past, and I'm sure what you have heard as well, a little bit of alcohol every day with food is good. I've heard that it helps clean your liver. You can probably do without any alcohol altogether, and it probably is best. But if you do like alcohol, a bit of alcohol every day with food is good, helps clean your liver. What we've heard so many times before is a glass of red wine even a day. I'm not sure if that's really true, but I've heard that so many times before, and you probably have as well. Otherwise, zero alcohol, I'm sure, is fine. Minimize it. And yes, that's basically what it comes down to. So that's, in summary, that's what it comes down to. So hopefully you picked up a few things from that. And from me, from my experience, from my research, from what I've come across, from what I've read and heard, that is eating well made simple. Thank you.